Hi and welcome to Royal Tutorials. This is the classical era now, so we're from 600 BCE to 600 CE. And we are mostly going to be focusing around Afro-Eurasia here. We're going to be talking about the Roman Empire, the Greek city-states. We've got the Han Dynasty over here, and then we'll just be touching on some things in this general region. Okay, so first thing we always do is break it down into EPECS. So environmentally, public works are starting to become a bigger part of people's lives. And those public works are made for emperors and rulers. Conquering of land is happening. Disease and urbanization are increasing. Politically, empires are emerging, so this is a new thing in world history. Saptors, which are our single, all-powerful, divinely ordained rulers. Law and justice systems are emerging, and military power is expanding. For economic, trade is one of the biggest themes of the classical era. If you think of classical, try to think of trade and empires at least. Monetary currencies are coming out, cities are centers of trade, and specialization is increasing again from the pre-classical era. Culturally, empire-endorsed religions are emerging. Patriarchy is cemented in those religions for most of them. Like I said before, public works like art, sculptures are increasing, and syncretism of religions is occurring through the conquering of empires. So when one empire conquers another, those religions are syncretized or mixed together. And socially, social hierarchies are justified by religion, just like patriarchy is. So there's limited social mobility because people are strictly following religions, and there's a literate upper class, and slavery is happening. So environmental. Like I was saying, public works require and use resources. Some examples of public works that you can use in essays are Roman aqueducts, the Parthenon in Greece, the Great Wall in China that started in the Han Dynasty, I believe. Roads are being constructed as infrastructure because military expansion is increasing, so the military troops need roads to effectively move across Eurasia. The Persian postal system is technically public works as well. There's the excessive use of resources. So here we can see environmental degradation happening. We've got some droughts, fires, and soil erosion. Soil erosion is a big thing happening in classical. Here are some Roman aqueducts. Oh, just kidding. And then over here we've got the Colosseum and some Greek ruins. Conquering land for empires. Mostly the empires that are conquering land are Rome, Persia. The Persian Empire expanded a lot under Alexander the Great. The Mauryan dynasty, the Han dynasty, and the Greek city-states as well are conquering some land. Disease is caused by expansion of people in empires. So when people are traveling throughout and in between these empires, trading, and through military armies, forget the question mark, armies are doing this too. When people are mixing, they're spreading disease. And urbanization is also occurring as people are moving about through trading centers. And so those are Roman cities, Hellenistic cities, Chinese civilizations along the Yellow River, and Indian cities. Examples of those are Ajanta and Ellora. Again, visuals. So politically, this is the biggest part of the classical era's empires are formed. So an empire is a political system or state under a single emperor that conquers foreign lands and uses its control over places to extract resources from them. That's a big definition, but basically they're all powerful and they're trying to conquer new land. That's the general idea. Again, here's all these examples of empires. I'm not going to repeat them again. So saptors, which are single, all-powerful, divinely ordained rulers. Examples of those are Qin Shi Huangdi, who reunited China into the Qin dynasty. He was ruling under the mandate of heaven. That's where that divinely ordained part of saptors comes from. Ashoka as well. He introduced Buddhism into the Mauryan dynasty. Constantine, again, religious tie. Alexander the Great, he was very all-powerful, and Caesar Augustus as well. Law and justice, those systems were mostly in Rome and China. So Rome and the Han Dynasty in China were the two most organized as far as their governmental bureaucracy and structure. So Shi Huangdi in the Qin Dynasty created standardization laws that were used entering into the Han Dynasty as well. And then military power was significantly increasing through Rhodes, and again, Rome's strong military force, Greek as well, and Alexander, who was the ruler of the Persian Empire, relied heavily on military power to expand his empire. So here we've got Roman battle tactics, again, super organized. The Great Wall of China. Over here, we've got some expanding of empires or conquering of land. Here's some Chinese soldiers. And so these are basically all the empires and how they were conquering their lands. So if you want to pause it, you can check that out. Economic. So trade is the big thing happening. Trade is causing the syncretism of religions. Trade routes are emerging. That's causing urbanization in trade centers, especially port cities and places along trade routes. So the trade routes we have are the Eurasian, Indian Ocean, the Silk Roads, the Mediterranean sea routes, and Trans-Saharan as well. Monetary currencies are emerging. That's mostly in Rome. I think the Han Dynasty might have had a currency, but Rome's coins were in bronze units, if you need that as evidence. Cities were centers of trade, like I said, built along trade routes. So some of those centers of trade were Rome, Persepolis, Xi'an, Pataliputra. I can't say any of these. Specialization was increasing a ton from the pre-classical just because of the increase in trade. As the merchant class was growing, more merchants were able to specialize in certain disciplines, and and then Buddhism spread through trade to China from India, where Siddhartha Gautama created the belief system. Over here we've got some Roman coins. These are the bronze units I was talking about. We've got roads for the soldiers, also in trade cities like Rome and trade routes, and then more aqueducts. Here, these are the trade routes. So they're not completely strictly defined, like the Trans-Saharan, there's a million over here, but just these general ideas of how there's different places where merchants are mainly trading and how these port cities are becoming increasingly important. So culturally, the religions that are playing the biggest role here are Confucianism in China, Roman polytheism, which was empire endorsed before Constantine. Ashoka's pillars, also empire endorsed. Christianity. Zoroastrianism, which was in Persia, so that was Alexander the Great's endorsed religion. Hinduism in India, and Buddhism and Siddhartha Gautama. And Ashoka was an emperor in India who implemented Buddhism into his empire's culture really peacefully. So patriarchy is cemented in Confucianism with filial piety that I talked about in pre-classical, and it's debatably cemented in Christianity as well. So art and sculptures are also growing. There's the Parthenon in Greece, literature and drama, mostly in Rome. There's plenty of other examples if you want to find some of those. Syncretism of religions. I keep touching on it. It's happening with trade and the spreading of different empires into new regions. And Christianity, with 2 T's, adopted some Roman polytheistic traditions as it spread, like the cult of saints. And so new advancements and philosophy is mainly thriving in Greece. In the Gupta Empire, India's golden age was a transition between Buddhism with 1D and Hinduism. And math and technology were India's strong suits then. They were the ones who invented discovered all of the modern math that we have now, or most of it. Greek rationalism was huge. So some philosophers that you probably know are Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and those were all in the Athenian golden age of philosophy, new advancements, lots of deep thinking happening in Greece. So over here we've got Mulan's dad connecting with his spirituality and their ancestors appearing to him in China. Here are some philosophers being really dramatic. And we've got, okay, so this is pretty important. We've got Christianity and where it spread. Here's the founder right here. And then Buddhism, we've got Siddhartha Gautama, the founder over here. And it's spreading to China, like I said, all throughout India, in Southeast Asia, and it actually makes its way over to Japan. So social hierarchies are justified by religion, so limited social mobility is occurring. Some examples of why or how social hierarchies are justified by religion are filial piety and Confucianism, so respecting men and especially your elders. Some patriarchy was in Christianity, and the caste system in India had extremely limited social mobility, almost none. And so for Sparta versus Athens, an idea I've got twice. In Athens was less militarily driven, and so people assume that women would have higher rights in Athens than in Sparta, but in Sparta, most of the men would go off to war for long periods of time, leaving the women in charge of the household and in charge of taking care of their property and children and farmland and all of that. So women gained more rights in Sparta than they did in Athens, so that was an interesting little twist there. The literate upper class was especially prominent in China with a scholar gentry class. So knowledge and deep thinking, like I was saying, in Greece are becoming important with the increased leisure time that people are having in these empires with higher standards of living. Limited social mobility, like I said, is associated with the social hierarchies justified by religion. So we've got that in China, Rome, and the Mauryan caste system. And patriarchy increased in China with the development of Confucianism and filial piety. And then slavery, especially prominent in Rome, That's where the Slavic peoples got their name, and the Slavic general region in Europe. And in Rome, slavery wasn't associated with any particular demographic. Besides that, they were either prisoners of war or criminals serving their justice time. So slaves were a big part of the Roman economy. Got that? Okay. Right here we've got civil service exams. So in China, again, increased focus on literacy, and these civil service exams were to become civil servants and serve the government using your skills of literacy and knowledge. Right here we've got Mulan challenging some patriarchy in China. More deep thinking happening in Greece. And here's just a typical social hierarchy again. This is for in the Egyptian area, but I mean, it relates to Rome too. We've got slaves and farmers, artisans, merchants. This class is the one that's growing the most in the classical era. Scribes, so again, focus on writing, is occurring. Soldiers, government officials like the civil servants, or like scribes over here, and then the single, all-powerful, divinely ordained ruler. So I hope that was helpful. I guess let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.